Well, I think the starting point is that we do not know how they intend to do it. They have not indicated how they would want to amend the constitution. But what is very clear is that it is not possible to ensure that when the president's term ends in 2028, he remains in office beyond 2028. There is no legal mechanism of doing it as things currently stand. In terms of damaging Zimbabwe, I think it's very straightforward. You know, if you move around different countries, you get a list of former presidents. I mean, go to any country. I mean, for example, we were watching the burial of former Prime Minister Odinga. You are in Kenya. What you will see first and foremost is a former president and the current president. You go to South Africa, you will see a former president and a current president. You go to Zambia, you get these things everywhere. This idea that we don't want to have a former president who is sitting there after they've completed their terms would simply make Zimbabwe a laughing stock. The kind of amendments that they are talking about, it is not possible to have those amendments without a referendum. There are very few small things that you can amend in the constitution without going to a referendum. But the kind of things you're talking about, if you want to tamper with the term of office of the president or the exercise of presidential powers or the structure of the state, you cannot avoid a referendum. What is disturbing is that this very idea that you want to avoid the referendum means that they know that the proposal is not popular with the people. One would want to have a situation where you go to a referendum whenever you have an issue to do with the constitution. I must make it clear to everyone that when we went to the referendum last time in 2013 and a referendum in 2000, there was no constitutional provision requiring a referendum. But it was quite common sense, and the only politically sensible way of proceeding was to have a referendum because these are issues to do with the constitution. So we are a country that has gone through 2 referendums, and we should know better that whenever you want to do a fundamental change to the constitution, you will have to do a referendum. But let's be clear, with the proposals that they are making, they cannot avoid a referendum. So as NCA, we are totally opposed to it. We will obviously do everything to make sure that that doesn't happen. It is wrong for any political party on its own to want to impose a constitution on the people. That constitution, whatever problems we had with the constitution making process as NCA, but we accept that it then became a product of the people after a referendum. It can then suddenly not go back to a political party. So there's everything wrong with a political party making it public that this is their intended purpose, and that intended purpose has nothing to do with everyone, it has just to do with them. That is wrong in itself. We will actually explore simply shooting down the proposal on the mere basis that the messenger is incorrect. You have heard this issue of saying don't shoot the messenger. But with constitutional reform, you can even shoot the messenger. You don't want people who create a notion that political parties should have something to do with the constitution according to their interests. Okay, I have 2 things to say in respect of that question. The first thing is that term limits are actually imposed to limit very good presidents. In fact, that is the reason for term limits. Term limits were invented to ensure that a person would not remain in office merely because they are doing well. That's if you go to the country that did that first and foremost, as the Americans. 4 years. They don't look at how good a president is, which is why some of the best presidents in that country have had to leave. So term limits are for good presidents. You don't need a term limit for a poor president who will obviously be removed in an election. So that's the first point to note. Then in terms of why we are saying it's impossible, of course they have to go through the parliamentary process. Let's assume that they get a 2/3 majority to amend the provision that says that the president's term is 5 years. They will then need a referendum. But that referendum depends on what it is that they are proposing. If they are proposing that a president will remain in office by merely extending the term, they are not even allowed to make that proposal. It will still be unconstitutional. Parliament itself cannot do so. So it depends on what they are doing. I'm saying President Mnangagwa was elected to serve up to 2028. And the people who did that were the people, not a political party or parliament. Parliament was also elected at the same time. So regarding getting a mandate from the people, Parliament and the President, they stand at the same level. No one can say, like the President cannot simply say, I want to extend the term of Parliament. That is not possible. Nor can Parliament say, I want to extend the term in office of the President. They must all allow a new election in 2028. So that kind of proposal cannot even be taken to a referendum. The only proposal that can be taken to a referendum is where you want to say that perhaps you want to increase that from now on, presidents will serve for 7 years or for 8 years or for whatever. That will have to be obviously be taken to a referendum. Then there's a provision, everyone knows it, which says that whatever amendments are made, they cannot benefit the president or the person who is in office at the time. That will be another impediment. Yeah, it will affect our economy in so many ways. The first way in which it will affect our economy is that we will have now the state captured by a group of people who will then direct affairs the way they want. No economy can survive if the state itself is captured. Because if this thing is to succeed, there are just a few people who would want it to succeed. Number two, it will dampen the spirit of Zimbabweans. You don't work properly in an environment where there is no openness, no governance, no open government, no nothing. You cannot have an economic system operating. Then, of course, foreign investment, you don't expect people to think that they can invest in a country where laws can be changed, where no one respects the constitution, which would mean no one respects property rights, etc. So it simply undermines the whole basis upon which we are operating. Okay, I think that we should separate him from the processes because as far as I see it, he still hasn't changed that statement. And we would want to test him at a time that these proposals will be introduced in Parliament because that's where it matters. When anything passes through Parliament, he has to go to his desk for him to sign into law. That is the moment at which we will see what he says about it. As things currently stand, these people can actually amend the constitution, take it, whatever they are saying, and then the president steps down. I'm sure he will be replaced by someone who we really don't know where the agenda is coming from. So we should give him the benefit of the doubt and wait until these proposals start, and let's see what he does with them. My last words are very simple. Zimbabweans must be very clear as to what they want. They put it in a constitution, and I know that it is almost the wish of every Zimbabwean that we limit the number of years a person may serve as president. So the current 10-year limit is almost close to, 99.9% of the people of Zimbabwe support it. So all we need for this thing to stop is for Zimbabwe to say no. They don't have to do anything except to show that they are against it. Then those who will be working and making strategies to stop it will be encouraged by the support that they'll get from the people.